still haven't told me why you're here, Louis.
If you want to feel like a cop again, I have a job for you.
I'm not a cop anymore.
Then I won't have to pay you much. I'm not asking for power, I just want to do my job.
I think Louis has put together a very impressive team of professionals.
Each has a special skill, like you.
I don't need this.
NYPD betrayed you. It's not fair.
You're doing this for the right reasons, aren't you, Louis?
What do you want me to say?
The truth. Be wary, my friend. I can assure you that those conventional authorities in the countries will not love you.
Probably not.
Hello, my name's Peter White. I am the international editor at Broadcast Magazine from London. And as you saw here, I'm here to introduce the team behind Crossing Lines. So with me, about to join me on the stage, we have Rola Bauer from Tandem Communications, and we have Ed Bernero, creator of Crossing Lines.
Sorry.
Thanks, Ed. Fantastic to have you. Thank you very much for joining us. I guess to start, let's start at the beginning. How did Crossing Lines come about? What is Crossing Lines? Rola, do you want to start with that?
Yes. The essence was that we had just started into the arena of the one-hour series business. It was at the end of December 2011 that Studio Canal had taken a majority share in Tandem. And part of our interest and our mandate was to develop the one-hour series business. And there was a gentleman who's been our counsel for quite a number of years in LA, and I had told him about the next step. And behave, Ed. People are watching us. The timing was perfect, because he said, there is a wonderful person you have to meet who you two will connect. His name is Ed Bernero. And I said, Ed Bernero, Third Watch Criminal Minds, Ed Bernero? And he said, Ed Bernero. I went, wow, okay, yes, I would really like to meet him. Then we had strategy meetings in January with Canal+, talked about the direction, and we're brainstorming actually with Canal+ about an idea they liked. And took this idea, went to LA, had the meeting with Ed, and pitched him the world of which we live in today here in Europe, which is that the borders have gone down and the criminals have freer accessibility. And while economically it may be good for us, it is a bit of a danger for our families. And that was the question, would anything like this interest him since it's dealing with crime? And his answer at the meeting at the Soho House, where, by the way, he arrived late.
It's LA. You have to be late. Would you like me to take over?
All yours, babe.
Okay, so what they didn't know, but the person that put us together did know, is I make a show called Criminal Minds, and the first season of Criminal Minds, I went to CBS and asked if we could do a version in Europe of an ensemble cop show, because it's where Europe is right now is essentially the exact same formation of where the United States was when the FBI was created, because I did a lot of research on the FBI to do Criminal Minds, and I thought it was an interesting way to sort of tell the birth of the FBI through a team that works cross-border in Europe. And no one in America was interested in doing it. And I talked about people for 5 years, the first 6 years of Criminal Minds to do it, and no one was interested. And I had been telling Tom, the man who put us together, my frustration with no one wanting to do it. So when they first asked me about doing this, I thought Tom was playing a joke on me. I thought it's like they just asked me if I want to do the exact show that I've been trying to get people to do for 6 years. So I said, yeah, absolutely. And in fact, I said, I already can tell you the pitch of the show that we want to do. And to me, still the most remarkable thing is that we met end of last January, and everything that you've seen has been done in just a little over a year. That we sold the show, we wrote the scripts, we filmed it in Prague, put it all together, and it's getting ready to go on the air. And it's a remarkably fast amount of time, which I think co-productions allow.
Did you expect a European company to come at this from you? Because it sounded like you tried to get this away from a traditional US side of
No,
things.
I should have. I did not expect this. When I went to this meeting, you just sort of like, sure, I'll meet anybody who wants to talk about something. And I was getting ready to come out of a deal, and they had a great track record. Tandem and Studio Canal have a great track record, so I'm like, sure, I'll meet with them. But I didn't expect that the show that I really wanted to do would come sort of like out of the blue from across the pond to me. So it's been quite an incredible ride.
How's the difference been for you from producing Criminal Minds, which itself is one of the biggest shows internationally, to creating this show from Tandem and the partners around the world?
Well, the great majority of my day, other than the fact that I wear scarves now, that I never did. But the great majority of my days are exactly the same as Criminal Minds. We just write a show that we believe in and send it out. We have great actors that perform the show. There are certain rules that we've set up for the show that we think are important. Like if we go to a country, we only use actors from that country. I don't think it makes sense to lie to people, and otherwise we could do the show in Glendale with a bunch of people with Italian accents, or the Italian character on the show is a lady from Italy, and we have a German star, and that's important to us, that when we go to different countries. But the day-to-day, it's turned into just doing a show. It's pretty, I think people are going to realize that there's not that much difference between making a show here and there, and it's certainly been a lot freer. I've been allowed to make the show that I want to make.
Is that because you're living outside of the traditional studio system?
Yeah, the studio system doesn't work right now, and I think more of the men and women who do what I do are realizing that. Like, you've got Tom Fontana coming over here now. You've got, there's quite a few. I think Anthony might be doing something over here. Anthony Zeiker, and Goyer. Yeah, but the reason is we get the freedom here that we don't really have anymore there. It's a peculiar time right now in American television. But that's the thing that was most appealing to me, was to come out here and make a show in Europe for Europe.
And how was it for you, Rola?
I would like to take a step back, if I may, because of when we started working, and after this wonderful meeting, we were here a year ago and pitched it and put it together and found really a very different way of doing it, because Tandem is traditionally grounded every production in Germany, and Ed was fine with that. He deferred to us on it. It was great. It was a real collaboration. We dragged him in every meeting, whether he wanted to or not, and found with TF1, and I want to just take a minute as to how we put the pieces together, if I may.
Yeah, please.
So TF1 Network has a new strategy, or had a new strategy, led by Sophie Laveau, who I'm just going to say is here today, and she should wave her hand, because then all the producers can come and run after her after the show. And she had gotten this mandate to do international co-productions, but hadn't found anything that she had wanted to do. And in a short period of time, found something, and it was announced actually at MIP. And prior to MIP, we had met and we had talked, but she was kind of full with this project. And nonetheless, she went against a lot of the odds of don't take on too much in a new strategy and trusted her instinct. And with TF1 Productions, and we've got Céline Roux, who's here also, the two of them became our partners in terms of taking the next step with this project. And we developed it also with AXN, which are digital channels. And then we're able to take, after a certain period of time, this leap of faith to go straight to series. Because as Ed is saying, the system isn't working in LA because it's predominantly pilots. Everybody runs after the same actors at the same time. The same writers have to work in a certain period. The tax credit in different states or in Europe all have to be tackled at the same time. It's pretty crazy if you think about it. And they all do it and then end up with the LA screenings and hopefully have something that they green light. And we just said to people, we're known to do 8 hours. What's the difference? Order 10 and trust us. And with having someone like Ed Bernero, it's a reduced risk. So we had the fortunate luck to go immediately to series. And I know the system doesn't do that in the States. And I would just maybe behoove any executive in the US to think about doing more of that.
Yeah, yeah. And with that, so then sort of follows into the point. So when, as Ed mentions, the way he was allowed more freedom, explain from your side of things how that works and on the ground.
Ed's incredibly collaborative, and so he would go disappear. I'd never hear from him. It would take weeks for me to get him on the phone. And then finally he'd come back, and he'd have the most amazing ideas. I'm joking. He would collaborate.
I talk to her every day.
We talk very regularly. But he would break down the story, and he was responsible for that, and he would then throw the story my way. We would talk about any sort of feedback I'd have, anything that we could do that would take it to a different level that would benefit the show, especially for the international market. I mean, so it was a real collaboration of each of our strengths, and I found it very complementary. Then we would present it to the two partners, TF1 and AXN, and that's how essentially we did that across the board, from scripts to casting to every aspect of production, right through till the cut.
Why did it take such a short space of time?
It's a good show. It's a good concept. Broadcasters got it immediately. And something that happened, which was the reason, part of the reason why we wanted to be in business with Studio Canal, that was an asset to our company. My business partner and our COO, Tim Halkin, is here, and I'm not quite sure if our other partner is here, but we're used to producing with about 200 contracts in a closing, a bond with a completion inter-party agreement, which takes months to get all the elements together. When we had the support of TF1 and AXN, and we knew approximately what the budget would be, and what was called soft money, tax credit, and our financial plan. We took all of that and the cash flow needs to Studio Canal, and we have with us today the CFO, Romain Bessy, here, who should wave his hand, though he probably won't because he doesn't want people to come running after him. Because he controls Studio Canal's. Because
he's got the money.
He's got the money, yes, exactly. And he immediately, I mean, like in 30 seconds, he and Olivier Courson greenlit this project because they understand this world from independent financing, which is what they do in theatrical. And that was great. And when, you know, there were questions here and there about it, they said, well, no, we believe in it. Well, this is why we supported you. And that helped us. So to be able to turn to Ed and say, we're done. We got the money. Let's go. There's nothing else holding us back. In fact, The one thing we both, in our post-mortem, we regret we didn't have more of a development time to just break out more stories and give Ed the time to get every single story done.
Let me ask you about that process, Ed, breaking the stories, writing the episodes. I guess a US drama like Criminal Minds will have a big team led by someone like yourself. How is this different, or was it different?
Much smaller team. And the meetings that we had generally were on Skype. We were meeting in different countries. I was the only American writer. We had a German writer and a British writer that helped. Two British. I'm so sorry. That's right. Two British writers. It was important to me to do that as well, to get European voices in it. All of the directors are European. So the notion of using people from that side of the pond was always in the DNA of the project. But I only say that it's quick in hindsight. For me, it felt like, we've got 10 episodes, so sit down and do them. I mean, it was very, on a production level, it was very sort of the way we do it in America. We shot them in 8 days. We had a new director for every episode. And I think that's one of the things that the cast has said many times, that was the hardest thing for them to get used to, is they're used to one director directing all of it. And the notion of the American version of the director comes in and does one episode and leaves, and the next director steps in, was something new for them. But as far as the speed of getting 10 episodes made, that was just like Criminal Minds or Third Watch or any other show that we've ever done. And the crew, everybody just sort of like stepped up and went, we got to do it how fast? And they just kind of did it. It's come together really well.
Were there any drawbacks?
Not really. None that I can point to. You always wish you had a little bit more time. I mean, I think that's something that we always want, especially going into it. It's like, I wish that you'd like to know that episode 10 was completely finished before you started shooting, which we're going to try to do this year. We're starting the writing a little bit earlier and trying to have all of the writing where it is. But no, I cannot point to a single major drawback to having done this show this way. And it looks and feels very much like it's a show I'm proud of. And that's all you can really do, is do a show that you're proud of and put it out to the world. And
how do you feel about it coming full circle and Tandem selling it back then to NBC?
Well, NBC it's funny. That's where I started. I was the first show I ever did was a show called Third Watch on NBC. So it's a little bit like coming home. I mean, when we went into NBC, it's all people that were sort of babies when I was babies. And I know that Tandem is very happy with NBC, and I'm happy that we're there, but it was never, my goal was to do a show here. So we both sort of got what we wanted, which is, I think it's nice that it's on NBC and that I kind of came home, but I'm much more hopeful that it does well in Italy and Germany and France. I just would love to see that happen. That's what would make me excited.
And Rola, the same question. I mean, that, as Ed suggests there, getting it, the first series that you do in this way, away in the States, is most producer and distributors' ideal situation. How did it come about?
Hard work. It goes back, Peter, to your other question. How is it that it went so fast? We had a good story, and it transcended the boundaries, and it touched a lot of people. And whether you're living in Paris or you're living in Chicago, the truth is, if criminals are not controlled, whether they cross the border, and in some ways I think the American audience is going to like that it's in Europe, because, oh, thank God, it's over there. It's that sort of problem in the old world.
Yeah, because now there's no crime in America.
Yeah. Whew, exactly.
We got rid of that.
Yeah. And that reminder of it is, at least for the 45 minutes, it makes it so it's over there. You know, there's a little bit of disbelief and suspension of it. I think that's yes, thank God, it's gratifying. It's breaking new ground. I've been in the business since '85. I don't know, actually, another 1-hour series that has been fully produced and hit a prime time. I may be wrong, I'd like to know, but a 1-hour series financed and produced in Europe, and then hits a prime time, one of the 4 networks. Obviously, we've seen than Netflix and BBC America and PBS and all of that. But I'm just not sure there is.
You and I have been talking about international co-productions for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And
we're young.
we're very. And how's that changed over the course of the last few years to a point where you can get this? Is that model changed? I know it's a often topic.
I don't think the model has changed. I think people's perception has changed. I think the imperialism that we always like to say that either the British or the Americans have become quite open to realizing the economic market needs to have a different way of working creatively. And yesterday, Ben Stevenson, who commissions at the Beeb, said, as long as you have integrity of your project, then that is the beginning and the essence of it. And you heard it from Ed just now when he said, I didn't feel I was doing anything different, and I was writing stories as I was writing stories for Criminal Minds. Obviously, I take a look at how I keep the integrity, and one of the ways we had talked about it is, this is a show about people who come from different places. And yes, we could have done it as he said. Let's go to Pasadena, California, and have some American actors speak with accents. But we didn't. And we were fortunate enough, and that helped us because we had World Without End and Pillars under our belt and had a really good unit of casting people in London, Paris, Italy, and Germany. So we have casting directors from all those 4 countries. And so it was very helpful to use those sources and those established directors to keep proposing actors who meant something in those countries and who kept the integrity of our story. Mm-hmm. All of that, I think, in the end, came through. Combine it with the openness of the market because of the economic stress that every budget has, and that's where the openness and the willingness and the need from all these broadcasters has now made it, okay, we'll do our acquired programming, we'll have our domestic programs, and we need something in the middle, let's call it. It'll be complementary, but we need it because our budget is requiring it. And it's up to us as creators, filmmakers, to deliver it in a style and a sensibility that the audience is used to.
Has anyone coined the phrase that's the opposite of the Euro pudding? Have we coined the new version?
What is the opposite of the Euro pudding?
Well, in the sense as it's in the old days, the often criticism of international co-productions was, the Euro pudding.
Yeah. Look, there are compromises you have to make when you do co-productions. I don't think we should say or kid ourselves about it. There are compromises. However, I feel when an organically and a successful series have all the partners together in a room, and they do agree one thing. They will defer the final voice to the people who know what the hell they're doing. We don't go to a network and say, you have to program it at exactly this time slot, because it's not our core business. We can recommend if we know the network, but ultimately the network has to do their job. They have to market it properly and they have to program it properly. Then that respect, quid pro quo, should be to the filmmakers so that they can actually do what they know best, because it's in the blood and the DNA. Did we always see eye to eye with TF1 and AXN? No. Did we find a way of making it work? Yes. And I think that's the respectful approach.
Ed, let's talk
Euro
about...
pudding sounds delicious.
Euro pudding.
I'm hungry now. Yes, sir.
So let's talk about the show a little bit.
Okay.
We're describing it almost without mentioning like a European Criminal Minds.
Yeah, that's not, I understand why that, it looks, I think the package of it looks like Criminal Minds because it's an ensemble, but it's much more character-driven than Criminal Minds is. The way I describe it is that the only DNA that it shares with Criminal Minds is that it's a bunch of unique people from different parts of an area that come together to do sort of heroic things. This show doesn't do serial killer. I mean, we have a serial killer story, but we do a much wider variety of stories. And the thing that I hear most from the cast of Criminal Minds is they're always just sorry that all the guest players get to do all the good stuff, and they just have to sort of like catch them. But we don't have that on this show. I think our cast gets to do the good stuff, and the day players get to watch them be great actors.
And we have 2 actors with us today here.
Oh, we do.
We do, who are being very shy, but we have Gabriella Pessione, who is here standing, and she should stand up because does a fabulous job. Wonderful. And we have who plays Eva, and Tom Flaschiha from Germany, who plays Sebastian.
Did you guys want to say anything about me?
We'll ask them later what they really think.
Yeah.
Really
Wait till we leave and then ask them.
It doesn't seem as dark as Criminal Minds. Is that what you were sort of getting at?
Yeah, it's not as dark. It's not. It's as heroic and it's not as dark. But even that wasn't a conscious decision. It's just you sort of go. When you're starting a show, the thing that interests me. I often get asked about serial killers because of Criminal Minds. I mean, it's been very successful, but I'm not interested in serial killers. I'm interested in people who go after serial killers. It's what interests me about police shows, because I used to be a policeman for 10 years in Chicago, is why they do it. I'm almost more interested in why they do it than what they do. It erodes your soul to do that job, and what interests me is that sort of journey in the police, and I think that Crossing Lines does more of that than Criminal Minds did.
What influenced this show? Whether it's other shows or fields?
What influenced this show? Let me be sure I understand what you're asking. What influenced me to want to write this show, other than the fact that that I wanted to do this sort of version of a show from the beginning? But what influences in the making of the show and the making of the characters, what we tried very hard to do is take a character and make a heroic character and then give them the worst flaw they could have. For instance, Hickman, who's played by Bill Fichtner, is an American cop who got shot through his right hand so he can't hold a gun. Now, if you know anything about American cops, that's the worst thing you can do to an American cop is take his gun away from him. So he has to learn to be a cop in a different way. And each one of the characters has that sort of, they have to learn to be a cop in a different way with this team. They're used to being superstars wherever they came from, and now they're in a group where everybody is as good as they are, and they have to find ways to stand out, and they all have secrets that they keep from each other, and some affect the team and some don't. But it was that kind of show. It was based primarily on character more than...
It's sort of procedural, but there's a serialized element. Is that?
Yeah, somewhat. There are serialized personal stories that go through everything. We also have 3 double episodes, which is something that we're excited about. There's a couple of episodes where they're 2-parters. We end the season on a cliffhanger. So there's a police story that generally wraps up in every episode, but there's also, I call them cookies for people who watch all 10 hours. There'll be things that they get that maybe someone else doesn't get, but it doesn't really matter if you don't know what's going on because it's exciting in its own right.
And have you thought further ahead? You've sort of mapped out the story for if it goes well.
There's more?
Seasons.
No, yeah, we kind of know where we want to be by the end of season 2 already.
Right.
So we don't go much further than that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we know where we want to be by the end of season 2.
There's more.
There's more. There's more. Fantastic. I guess maybe we can pass this over to the audience to see if there's any questions here to ask Ed or Rola.
Hi, I'm Mark Palermo from the United States. A question for Rola. If you could elaborate on some of the compromises without indicting anyone in the co-production process.
Compromises.
Nice voice. You're welcome.
I'm thinking because we didn't have a lot of compromises. I guess more money. Be nice to have more money, to have longer days of shooting. But in the end, if you have more money, you'll spend it. So the question is, how can you produce something cleverly? and it still holds. I would like to add one more day for shooting. It's something we've talked about. So we shot one episode in 8 days. It's tight. Now, we did have splinter units, we had second units, but we'd like to do, so there's maybe that compromise. I don't feel we had to compromise creatively in anything. It was so, we found ways to make our budget work. I mean, we had certain ups and downs of people being ill, and so you had to stop production or rearrange things, but we found ways of still making it work, and that was successful. And I would say that the most important part of this, so that you don't feel you have to compromise, is just to keep the lines of communication open. Bring me the bad news as soon as possible, and then you find a way of figuring it out. And that's part of the challenge of this business. That's what you love, is having those challenges. You know, sometimes we had a situation where one of our actresses was ill-disposed, I guess I would say, in that she was pregnant. And then we...
Not Gabby.
Yeah. No. And then there was we had an actor who had other obligations and another one who was sick. So, you know, but it was almost as if that's when the tough really get going. And we just would rise to the occasion and fix it.
I think what we learned is if you're shooting a show in Prague, no one gets to go home for Christmas.
We also moved around. We went from Prague to Paris to Nice. That's big, because you're moving some key HODs, and then you're bringing in new people who also have to learn the language and who have to come up to speed, because you have a certain language you always build with your team. So if there would be another, let's say, situation, if we had more money, ideal, of course, do what the Bond films do. You have one crew and you move them all over the world, but that's prohibitively expensive in television.
Good. Any other questions? There's one there in the middle.
Hi, my name is Julia. I work for dailymouse.net from France. I'm just wondering, what does it change for you as a writer to go from a show that is episodically written from one that is horizontally written?
It's not a we write this show very much the way we write Criminal Minds. We start the season on Criminal Minds talking about the character, a theme for the season, and then a character story, what the things we want each character to do during the season. We just spread it out on a much longer basis, because we do 24 episodes of Criminal Minds every year, and we did 10 of this show and maybe 12 next year. So it's just kind of condensed a little bit more, so I think it feels a little bit more serialized, but in the way we do it, it's exactly the same. We sort of sit down and go, where do we want Ava to be in the middle of the season, where do we want Ava to be at the end of the season, and then we sort of plot backwards from that. But that's exactly how we do Criminal Minds. Yes, ma'am? Uh-oh, follow-up.
Yes, but on a 24-episode period during a year, usually you have feedback from what the audience is thinking, and maybe you can adjust.
Right.
There is no such thing.
Well, that's not true. You have feedback from the audience, but you can't adjust, because by the time you get the feedback, you're 8 episodes further down the line. I personally think the worst thing you could do would be try to adjust to the audience. I think you have to do stories that you believe in and shows that you believe in and put them out there, because it's just impossible. You know, as I said, people see an episode of Criminal Minds, and we're 8 or 10 episodes further ahead already by the time they see them. So we couldn't adjust to it if we wanted to, or by the time we did, it would be 3 months later. So I don't think it's a recipe for success to try to guess what the audience is going to be happy with and give them that. I think you have to give them something that you're proud of and that's the best of your ability and the best of your group's ability, and then put it out there and, you know, trust that the audience will come with you.
Any others?
I have 2 questions. Stephanie from Arvista. Number one, on the just the financial model side. Studio Canal, do they also share rights with Tandem in the, I mean, or did they just completely come in as a financier? And then the second part is, how will you coordinate the premiere? Is it, who will take the lead in premiering the show, if it hasn't already, which I'm looking forward to seeing it.
The first question, the relationship with Studio Canal, they are a 51% shareholder in Tandem. And Tandem does two businesses. It develops and finances, produces, and sells, which is the second business. So, and when we built up the company on these two pillars, let's say, of business, of doing our own productions and selling our own productions, we realized we also needed to work with other third-party producers. So we actually distribute other production companies' programming. So when Studio Canal came into the company, it was clear and a big discussion that we wanted to keep what we had built as that brand. Now what's great is that we coordinate with Studio Canal International's division, and if there are synergies between us that will ultimately get us more money on the program in a certain country, that's what we do. But we continue to do the business that we've always done, which is produce them and sell them. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Obviously, what I had mentioned earlier before, we couldn't have moved that fast if we didn't have the support of Studio Canal when it came to underwriting, forward financing, and helping us with the cash flow of the production, as opposed to going to a bank and having to pay a very large amount of money and all of that. Your second question. Oh, I have short-term recall problems. So what was your second question?
Just about how they're going to coordinate airing and premiering and the schedule around the world.
It's an interesting question because we had always talked about, for us, TF1 was going to have the first premiere. But as I said earlier, you don't decide to the network what they're going to do. That's their core business, and you hope that they know what they're doing and that they look after your baby and program it properly and market it. I think in the end, because of the needs of all of the different players, it may be the Italians who come out first. Now, nobody expected that, but it was where we are now seem to be heading. After them, America, and then depending what happens with France and Germany, somewhere in there, we're also, so we're sold in all of those territories and we have partners in all of those territories. But there's not a, and this is what's wonderful, is in co-productions, you try to protect the program. Because if you protect the program, especially in the one-hour series arena, you're gonna have partners coming back and saying, we want a second season. And if there's ever a network or a partner who says in our negotiations, oh, we have to have the premiere, we try to talk them out of it to make them see that it's in their benefit if each of the countries can do what they need to do. And so, ergo, hopefully help it and get it successful.
Are there any territories left that you're focusing on?
Oh, absolutely. Somalia. No, we haven't sold Japan. Mm-hmm. In the middle of finalizing the Canadian and the UK market. And the Australian market. So of the big players, let's say, yeah. But you know, it's just been a year. We were here just pitching it, so it's been pretty fast for all parts of this production, which is lovely.
And I guess to end on, a question for both of you, would you do it again?
Oh God, never with him again.
Yeah, I would, sure. No, it's been an amazing experience. It's been a level of freedom that just doesn't exist in this studio system anymore in the States.
Will they let you back into Hollywood now you've done this?
Yeah, I think so, because if you make money for them, they'll let you do anything. It's, but it's been pretty great. It was interesting starting this, because I think when we first talked to NBC, they thought we were talking about selling them the format. You know, it's like, no. It's a fully made show. We have 10 episodes. It's take a look at it. And they were like, oh, really? So it's interesting. I hope this changes everything. I hope that this show makes it that it's much easier for co-productions and for people to come over here and make shows and people from here to go to the States and make shows. I think it should sort of open it up a little bit more than it is right now.
Good, yeah, we'll see. No, thank you. Can I just ask everyone to give a round of applause to Ed and Rola?